All right, everyone, welcome once again. It is Friday, and Friday means we are going to have another little party, what we call manufacturing e-commerce success. I'm one of your co-hosts, Damon Pistolka, and that guy right over there, good-looking dude right there, Kurt Anderson, is my co-host. Take it away, Kurt.
Hey, Damon Pistolka from Exit Your Way. Damon, happy Friday. Thank you for putting this party together. Boy, you really know how to host a shindig, I must admit. So I don't know if are you sitting down for this one today? Because this is
I am sitting down today.
There's I don't know if my heart's gonna handle this one. We've got like two powerhouses on the stage. Like it's
we'll keep it mellow.
Like
one.
I'm not a young guy anymore, DC. So we got to keep it right, Damon. But
Yep.
Okay.
We got we can't go too hard.
All right, guys. Happy Friday. We've got two supply chain powerhouses on stage. I've got DC down below me from my angle, and I've got Sneha over there. So, DC, I'll start with you. Happy Friday. How are you?
I am great. This is the last meeting that I have for the day. And I'm going to try to see if I can sneak out to go get a massage and go to the sauna and do a little afternoon mom alone time.
There you go.
It's been a busy couple of weeks. I mean, the end of Q1 going into Q2, I always forget how busy that time is because our business is very seasonal. So at Q4, you go into that lull, you kind of ramp things back up Q1, but it's like, it just happens to where it's so busy all the time. And I always forget, of course, to like pace myself, and I burn out. And then I call Sneha and she's like, go to sleep. She's like, can we have this, like, let's just go on vacation. We'll have this conversation when you come back.
No, I love that, DC. And what a great talking point is like taking care of yourself. Like, without Damon, you say it all the time, man. If you don't take care of yourself, you really virtually have nothing else left, right? I mean, being Captain Obvious with that. But DC, good for you. Congratulations. DC is the founder 2020 of New Gen Architects. And DC, I think it was your COVID baby, right? Is New Gen your COVID baby?
Yes.
2020,
yes.
Right?
Yes. It was very much. I don't want to keep interviewing at companies where I don't really want to work. So I'm going to just do this on myself temporarily.
I love it.
I don't actually want to work here, but I need a job, so I'm gonna.
Exactly.
DC, when you're an entrepreneur, it's just AKA I'm unable to work for anybody else, right? Just when you're an entrepreneur, you're unemployable.
That's what thrust me into entrepreneurship. I was like, well, I don't really want to work in these places.
Yeah, so that's right.
I'm just gonna do it myself.
Well, you and I met right about that time when you were launching. As a matter of fact, we met prior or right around that time of you launching your business, and so it's been an honor.
I hadn't even launched yet. And you were one of the people that I can definitely say, like, take the leap of faith, trust that God has always provided for you. Is there going to be a situation now to where he is not? Why would that be the case? And you are talented. You can make it happen. And very much. So I have to give credit where credit is due, Kurt.
Well, man, Damon, I'm like a proud uncle right now.
That's cool. That's cool. As an entrepreneur, it's a tough road. You're going to doubt yourself every single minute some days. And that kind of little bit of inspiration really helps because everyone goes through it. And now look.
And we're going to dig into it. And DC's done an amazing job. You are so inspiring, blossoming your business. And so, DC, it's been just such an honor and privilege having a front row seat, watching you just grow your business. And so, God bless you. And I cheers for our friendship. And man, all right, Damon. I don't know if I'm going to get through this. Hey, guys, we've got some people chiming in here. We've got John Grande. We've got John Baglino. We've got some other folks here. Man, that's a tough name. I don't know if I can pronounce that name right. Take a stab at that one, Damon.
Dikusuka.
Okay. Well, hey, happy Friday.
Trying, man.
Yeah. So let's go over to our friend Sneha Kumari. Do I have that correct? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm 2 for 2 because I did the same exact thing last time I interviewed you. So, hey, we go back a ways. We become fast friends. Happy Friday. Welcome to the program. What's going on in your world?
But first, I like just exactly what we were talking off stage was boys growing up, both the boys, the older one turning 5, which is kind of making me a little nervous because every day there's a new personality coming back from school and saying things that was never said in my house. So still like trying to understand like how do I deal with it? And he's just 5. So I guess like that's definitely occupying my mind right now. But other than
my son loves her kids. No, it's so kind of inside joke between me and Sneha, but we can bring everyone into it. The last time they were together was not copacetic. So whenever my kid sees Sneha on a call, he always says, "Yes, she has 2 kids. One poked me in the eye, and one pulled my hair."
Oh no! Oh. Well,
that's awesome.
So still dealing with the different personalities running in the house. Like I'm minority in the house, so 3 boys.
Yeah, you're ganged up on, aren't you?
So having all the fun that I can.
You're a fun family, guys. Like,
you know, so
we're fun family.
So let's dig in. And DC, your son's been on our calls multiple times, so we've gotten to know each other. Your dad's been on our calls, I think, over the past, and so it's a big family affair here, Damon. So you know what's nice. We were talking earlier, you know, like Damon, you know, I only have like that one question that I mean, you know, maybe at some point in time I'll get a new one. But when DC was on last time, this question was not in our repertoire, right? Just for the record, we have 2 repeat offenders here right now, DC and Sneha. They've been both on a program and they were just so good, so amazing, so wonderful. We had to have them back. So DC, I have to hit you with this question. I just have to. Sneha, I have to ask her, right? So DC is a little girl growing up. And mind you, like you've lived all over the world. And we were saying before we went live, when you get on a call with DC, you never know where, not even like what city, like you don't know what country she's coming at you. So my question to you, DC, is a little girl growing up, who was your hero? Who was your hero as a little girl growing up?
Oh my goodness. Putting me on the spot.
Damn, Damon.
As a little girl growing up, I can't think of, you know, any one particular person. And I think that it's so hard to think about because it's hard for me to separate what my life has become in the last decade. Because like that wasn't what I was thinking about as a little girl. You know what I mean? Like I never envisioned this. I very distinctly remember that I wanted to be president. And like at the time, you know, the first president I remember, and whose job I wanted was Bill Clinton. I mean, like, was Bill Clinton my role model? I don't know. You know, considering maybe not.
Right.
Well, what angle you take from it?
Well, you know what? We'll take that for an answer. And how about that? And we have a female vice president, of course, now. And so, you know, hey, looking up, you know, as little kids, you always look up to our president, whether back in the history or current times, regardless of what political party you align with. You know, having a president as a hero is absolutely a great option. Damon, we've never had that one.
No. And I was going to say with current situations, the last couple presidents, you've got decades to work on that.
That's right. You got decades of work on. So now,
like, if I really think, you know, when I was in 3rd grade, I really loved my 3rd grade teacher. And then the same 5th grade. Boom. I really loved my 5th grade teacher. Yeah. In 7th grade, I really loved my 7th grade teacher. I mean, for a long time, I wanted to be an educator. So when I was going through my first degree, I was going to do foreign language education. And I started on that path. So probably as a little girl, my teachers were who I really looked up to. And like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach.
Yeah. Nice. Perfect. All right, man, you're singing our song right there. So Sneha, let's come over to you now. You know, you're frequent visitor at our show. So like, you know, that question, I did not ask that question to you last time. So Damon, you know, why would we are going to go there. We are going to go there. So yes, Sneha, as a little girl growing up, who was your hero?
I think I've answered this before too, but I have to say it was my mom.
Your
Always,
mom?
my mom. She still is. Like, I come from a pretty small town in India, and then when I was growing up, I didn't know that I could live in Europe and China and US at some point and be doing things that I'm doing today. That wasn't something in my head. Of course, I had dreams of becoming a pilot at some point, or maybe getting into some other crazy stream that I'm not going to talk about here. But I ended up like, but I have to say, like, my first visit to a manufacturing facility, but was a steel company, and that happened when I was just out of high school, and that I think was just so fascinating. To watch live in person of how a molten steel converts to really like bars of steel was something that has struck me, stuck with me
Yeah.
throughout. And here I am doing manufacturing, doing supply chain, all things that I love, and also venturing now in a different industry. But throughout this, like, yes, growing up, seeing my mom, like, she's the biggest motivator, keeping me, grounded, and also like making sure that I'm not like giving up. Of course, you have your moments, you have your failures, but then the friends, the community I've built here, that I've made here, the mentors I've gotten throughout my life, I learned from everyone, and have learned, like, taking the good from everyone and tried to see if I could use them in my life. But yep.
Oh, well, that's a wonderful answer. So, DC, let's slide over to you. We're talking manufacturing. And guys, everybody out there, drop a note in the chat box. You definitely want to connect with DC. You want to connect with Sneha here on LinkedIn or whatever social media platform. Go to New Gen Architects. DC has a fantastic website. DC, you have a wonderful video. Love your video. So check out her website. And again, if you're looking for supply chain expertise, boy, stick around and we're going to take a deep dive. But DC, talented, you're just so charismatic, just such a wonderful person. You could have brought your talents to any different industry. Why manufacturing? What attracted DC to manufacturing?
I really love the idea of have you ever, I'm sure you've heard of the show How It's Made. Like, you get to do that in person though, and actually see, like, it makes the world go round. Manufacturing is the actual creation of something out of nothing. You have your raw materials, you put it all together, and then there's a thing at the end. And that, like, the industry is just very fascinating to me. And I mean, the niche that Sneha and I have been naturally, just kind of organically fallen into, it's even more interesting because it's an industry like on the cusp of I know there's always like, is it a revolution or is it a transformation? Like, whatever it is, it's all of that right now. And it's applying that manufacturing to, construction and industrialized construction. And, it's like where we live and, where we not just live and like where we sleep, but also with commercial buildings and industrial buildings, like where we work. And it's so important to just keeping the world going that it's an industry to where you feel the purpose, and not to say that all, industries don't have that, but I feel like it's very pronounced in manufacturing and especially in industrialized construction, because it has so much effect on our daily lives and what impacts us and the human experience.
Well, I love that. So, all right. So we're taking a deep dive into supply chain. Sneha, can you please confirm or maybe dispel? Damon and I heard this rumor that there's been supply chain challenges for the past 2 or 3 years. Is this true, Sneha?
Yes. Just for the past 2-3 years, I guess we have always had supply chain challenges. It's
exactly
not pronounced in the past 2-3 years. Our government is using that word, and there are lesser and lesser people asking us, what is supply chain? What the heck is supply chain? What's that?
Sneha's like, there's always been challenges.
There's always been challenges.
So you know what? That's a great point, guys. So let's dig in. I mean, they've always been there, but was it just escalated, or like now? I don't know if we're getting on the other side of it, and like hopefully it wasn't too soon to kind of crack that little joke, right? But as we're getting into supply chain, like let's go there for a second. Then I want to dig into like your current process, but talk about the pre-COVID supply chain challenges. and then where we're at today. Sneha, do you want to take that first?
Yes, absolutely. So I have to put this out there. If we have supply chainers watching this, they would 100%, 1000% agree with me. Supply chain is the backbone of any industry in general today. Like, period, like without any questions asked. But of course, we always had challenges because supply chain touches every phase of your product life cycle, and then you're literally interacting with every single function of that exists in your company. It has been, of course, way more pronounced, not just since COVID. Do you remember the times where our president announced the tariff issues? So the tariffs went up. Since then, I think the escalation and the domino effect has continued, meaning, the port delays and being, again, rethinking your shoring opportunities. Do we bring it back? Do we nearshore, reshore, and all of that? Like that whole effort, focus has been magnified. The opportunity, and one thing that was very starkly pronounced during this phase of the tariffs going up, then COVID hitting us, and us trying to grapple the situation and trying to deal with it. One thing was pretty sure that all these strategies that we used to, as in supply chain or business strategies we used to focus on, there used to be this function of risk management, but not something that was taken really seriously. And then suddenly, when you come across these situations, you thought that, okay, we would just probably did not make the countermeasures effective enough to actually put it into effect. That focus of managing your risks effectively and being serious about it, I have clearly seen that change happening in supply chains. And so, yes, it has magnified. And so, yes, definitely a need for how do you be more efficient? How do you actually optimize on what you have, what you got, and make sure that you are, setting your company up for success. DC always talks about it a lot on her shows too, that this is not a back office function, it's your profit center, right? Treat this as your profit center. And it's funny, like DC and I have been like going to conferences lately, our pivot to this industry of modular construction, I'll get more into that also, where the role of supply chain is even more pronounced and even more important. We realize that that's an industry that still needs to be learning more about supply chain, the importance of supply chain, and why it needs to be optimized, and what are the opportunities out there, some great opportunities out there to change your processes and be thinking leaner. But yeah, I mean, it has magnified. People are taking steps to reduce your risks and improve your bottom line, like making this more of a profit center. But there is a long way to go and lots of opportunities to still be doing stuff.
I'm not crazy about the narrative of like going back to normal when it comes to supply chain, because yes, during the pandemic, everything was crazy. It wasn't just supply chain, it was everything, our lives. And I feel like that created this foundation to say, oh, well, this is what normal should be, or this is what we would expect normal to look like as it relates to disruptions. So like now, every time there's a disruption, it's in the headlines. But like in supply chain, we've been dealing with supplier shortages and disaster, natural disasters and strikes, and like that's just been a way of life. So now, even with, I was reading something, I was like, oh, we're going into a freight, recession or whatever. And I was like, are we just kind of going back to pre-pandemic level? So like, is it really a recession, or, what I mean? So it's just the narrative around it, I think, has been a little skewed. And for people who are not in the industry, it just seems different than what it actually is.
Well, and honestly, I think what happened, COVID proved this, is when the average person walks into a grocery store and can't buy things like toilet paper, then they understand what supply chain is about. Supply chain chain is a
thankless job. If you're doing it, nobody says anything. When you're doing it, shoulder. When something messes up, it's like, why isn't the supply chain working? Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And
well, at least after COVID, people know the supply chain is not working. The supply chain
right. Yeah.
So DC, let's go here. You like to talk about like processes and people over technology. Now, my conversations with you, I feel like you are a tech guru. I feel you're off the charts. So it's very prominent for you to say people and processes over technology. What do you mean by that? Or could we go there in the conversation from a supply chain standpoint?
Yeah, definitely. It's very much a start there first. So I love digital. I love technology. I love to figure out how to improve the end users' lives, improve business users' lives, get them out of doing this manual work, giving them purposeful jobs. It's not just, something that a computer can do, or AI or a robot or something like that, to actually have that strategic thinker and that strategic perspective that's really bringing value. And that means that before you start looking at demos for technology, and before you say, I'm just going to add in some robotics, that means figuring out what that means for the people involved. And that's from a change management, change leadership, reskilling, upskilling, maybe organizational structures, shared KPIs. Once you are doing things better, faster, more agile with your systems, people change. And, I was reading or commenting on a post a couple of weeks ago about how, one guy was saying, I wasn't really concerned about Chat GPT taking procurement's jobs or AI taking procurement's jobs, but I've been giving these prompts that are making me a little worried. And I say, well, if you have the right leadership, those people are going to be repurposed. They're not going to be replaced. So it's really important for me to work with companies to think about things from that perspective. We're not automating or bringing in technology with the goal of replacing people. Yeah. We're bringing it in with the goal of repurposing people. So that means, what are people going to be doing? What does that new process look like? And let's define a new process. Let's standardize a new process, and then have technology enable the humans, not that like, hey, how many people can we get rid of and, reduce head count. So the people over, people and process over the technology, or the data over the technology, is very much a let's start in the right place first, which isn't just let's call up vendors and get demos. That's not where you should start with your digital journey.
Yeah. And you make such a great point there, DC, because the people that technology can replace need to be repurposed, because we can't hire enough people in manufacturing anyway. You just can't. And if we don't have the robotics, we've talked about how many years have people talked about robotics is replacing people. I don't see that being a big factor in, huge mass layoffs in manufacturing. Just like any other technology and supply chain, it is doing exactly what you said, repurposing people to higher value work they can do within these organizations, because we don't have enough people. We just don't have enough people.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we could even go back 200 years ago, to the Luddites, when they were rebelling against, like in England and the textiles, and, Damon Paul Bunyan, right. Competing against the machine to take down trees, this has been a centuries long challenge. And unfortunately, like if it's your job and, you're kind of like, hey, this is what I do, this is how I've done it, you might get caught in that little trap. But boy, technology advancement, change is going to happen. Whether we want to or not, change is going to happen. So we need to embrace it. Sneha, what do you tell folks as far as like, how do we embrace that change? Maybe for folks that are a little bit resistant, or like, digital immigrants or tech challenged, how do you help folks kind of embrace that technology and those new changes?
So I was like, you actually pivoted very, very right into this, like change is inevitable. Right. Mm-hmm. But as humans, we really resist change. Like nobody likes change.
Right. Nobody likes change.
And so the sooner we accept it, because there's a lot of, I have seen in the industry, there's a lot of software fatigue that's been going on for some time, because folks are inundated with softwares. Clearly not a lot of why has gone into before purchasing a lot of softwares, right? And then if you do not understand the why, you clearly are not changing. You clearly did not change to actually realize your ROIs, right? And that's where I have been coming in and working with industries to navigate that change. But you have to first start with being a Lean Six Sigma expert and practitioner myself. The approach is always, do we even know what your current state is? Do we know where you are? Like where exactly you are? And when I say you are, doesn't mean that, okay, as a purchaser, I know what I do daily, but I have no idea what the inventory manager is doing. It's about bringing all the doers in one place and understanding what the flow looks like. You will clearly, trust me, you do that sticky map, you do that on a piece of paper, wherever, right? You don't need a fancy software for that. You do that, you will clearly know where the problem is. Like just step back and see how these folks are interacting with them and how many times they're calling each other or actually writing emails back and forth and losing track of it. It's mind-blowing, and it still happens. Yes, it still happens, and even in bigger companies. Okay, so let's just accept that that's the truth. How do we navigate the change? So start with understanding that. Understand where your waste is. Bring in someone who gets it. Like if it doesn't, you do not have to reinvent the wheel every time, or do not need to take 100 different courses to get an expert and then make a change. If you got help, seek it, get it, and bring the experts in and understand what could be the immediate. Like there's always, like especially like with Lean, there's so many immediate tools that's at your fingertips, that there are so many low hanging fruits you could go after immediately and realize some efficiencies in every function that you have within your operations or your overall value stream, I would say. Once you have that, then comes in, okay, these are the places where we could do better. Like there's if you are running your shop floor, right? There's a lot of tribal knowledge that goes into running your day-to-day, right? How do you manage your schedules? Can we intelligently manage it? Of course, right? You have tons of data. You're running a million, billion, whatever dollar business. There's tons of data at your hands. Why don't you utilize it and see if you could do something better, right? And use that, and then think about if there is a good tool that could be used at a budget that you can really support and understand your ROI, right? And then go about it. And then I say tool, that tool doesn't have to be $100,000 tool. Do not need to go implement SAP for every single business. So let's just accept that there are many more tools out there that could be more catered to what you need for that particular function, and then go with it and see if it realizes. But then when you're doing the tool, again, there's a change. If your people who are going to use the tool do not adopt it, you really did not see adoption, so you did not really see your ROI. That's when think about it like I call it a go-to-market strategy just for your internal users, right? Understand your user personas, what's in it for them, and why should they use it. If I tell a purchaser, hey, you know what, if you use this, you would actually go home early, right? You don't need to spend 10 hours today to finish that order. They will buy it.
The marketing, communicating of what's in it for me.
Yeah,
what's in it for me. That's how I think about it. Like it's not a one size fits all. Okay, just go ahead, go use it. No, understand why it's important for a purchaser, for an inventory manager, I keep talking about supply chain, but for a marketing folk, and then don't
we talk about manufacturing supply chain? No, yeah. Sneha makes a lot of really good points, and very specifically for getting over the change and combating that. Because the user adoption piece is so important. Even if it's not technology related. Let's just say we're talking continuous improvement and we're changing some processes and we're not throwing technology into it. If people don't understand what's in it for me, why this is changing, why I should care, they're just going to revert back to old behaviors, because it even just becomes, like muscle memory. That you go in, that's what you do. So why go through the extra? You need to explain to me why I should be going through the extra work of changing all of that and reworking all of those neural paths. And then the education piece of it. I mean, people are afraid of the unknown. So if they're seeing, this tool can now do this thing, if you haven't explained on top of what's in it for me, now what am I going to be doing different, and like giving me the security to understand that I still have a job and like I'm still going to be doing something. You're not going to fire me. Then I am now engaged in figuring out how to make this work, because I understand why it matters to me. I get to go home. I don't have to sit on the phone with the supplier for 30 minutes trying to figure out where the POs are. My life is going to be easier. I'm going to keep my job. So now I'm invested in figuring out how to make this work. So I'm going to work with the consultants. It's not a babysitter that's coming to, you know, figure out what I'm doing wrong. And, you know, it's not a, what do you call them? The people who like the head cutters, where they like their job is to come in and just get rid of everybody and like reduce, you know, the workforce. That's not the case. And very specifically because the work that we do is with small and medium manufacturers. You know, we've come up with this new assessment. We've come up with, you know, proprietary software. We've come up with these training programs, and it's all very specifically geared toward, if you know, most of the MEPs that we work with, they have said 80% of our membership base of manufacturers are companies that have 20 employees or less. And they are the companies that are not ready to take on all of the new demand and the infrastructure dollars from, you know, the CHIPS Act and reshoring and nearshoring and what all of that is going to look like. So we need these companies to understand digital readiness. We need them to understand what the processes should be, what the technologies could be that they could adopt, even within their small scale of whatever their piece of the pie is. Because ultimately, we all know small businesses run small businesses drive the economy. Small businesses and manufacturing drives a lot of that. So there is purposeful work in figuring out how to help smaller manufacturers embrace digital from the perspective of growth and scale. And a lot of that is just education. I mean, the assessments that we do that, you know, Sneha talked about bringing a consultant, et cetera, we do that. And we've gotten tremendous, like very positive feedback of, we're now saying, we highly recommend, and it is best for you if you have 2 to 3 people do this with us, because in the context of doing it, we're going to teach you what we're looking for. We're going to teach you, why are we asking these questions? What does procurement mean? What does demand planning mean in the context of your business? Sure, you can go take a Lean course. You can go take a Six Sigma course. It's going to be best practices for Toyota from 50 years ago. Are you Toyota? Is it 1970? You know what I mean? Like, it matters, but also not. it matters, but also it doesn't at all. So, you know, how can we apply these best practice concepts to your very specific reality with your team, with your financial constraints, with your, you know, training needs, and figure out what that looks like so that you can grow and scale and not be afraid of the technology and understand how to embrace it. And then these are the tools that work. I mean, the tool that Sneha and I have developed, it's very much like, if you can use an app on your iPhone, you need to be able to use this tool. Like, we have very much said user experience is important. You know what I mean? We're talking about training needs to be very much, hey, this is what it is, and everything is very intuitive. And it is the behavior change that has to come with it, not the actual user enablement of the tool. So we've thought about those things, because in industrialized construction, it is a lot of resistance. It is a lot of like, dude, we've been doing this for forever. You know, construction wasn't thrust into this go home and use Teams. Like, you can't build stuff at home with Teams.
Yeah.
you have to build stuff at a site. So there was this like digital transformation that we have to, you know, take part in during the pandemic for this industry. So it's a lot of education.
Yeah, I just didn't go there.
Hey, John, thank you.
Okay, mic drop. Bye. Call us.
Man, was that just juicy or what?
Just
man?
kept going.
Damon,
just kept going.
Remember my line last week, Damon? Do you remember guys, do you remember going to grandma's on Sunday dinner, and just like, no matter what grandma made, it was just delicious. It just, the aroma, just whatever grandma made was just that much better. This was like grandma's Sunday dinner right here. So that was, man, tons of, there were too many, My mic is broke. All right. So software fatigue, Sneha. I love that line.
Yeah.
Digital readiness. You know what? In DC, if I'm going to put this out to both you guys, I know like conversations I've had with both of you, you guys are big. I feel like we're talking communication, collaboration, teamwork, breaking silos. Can we go there, Sneha? I'll start with you. How important is it for, and again, even our smaller manufacturers, not the big corporations, the smaller manufacturers, talk about why is it so important to break these silos down to get into the end zone for these opportunities?
Yep. So I'll start with, just wanted to like continue that conversation that DC was saying, like for especially small, medium businesses, you'll see like a lot of, nothing against Excel. I love Excel. You could do a lot with Excel, but a lot of things are being, done in Excel or actually in your head also, right? We are in 2023, right? And a lot of softwares that we have out there today, all the good ones, the big ones that's named out there, right? A lot do not really cater to this industry specifically, right? And what both of us realized is we don't need to have obsolete software experiences just because we are a small business. Right? We don't need, and also we don't need to be investing hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get a feel that, okay, yeah, maybe, someone else is doing it efficient. Maybe I'll be efficient. Yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. While that's clearly not a great investment of the money that we hold and the revenue that we are generating. So the goal was to make sure we are able to access, we allow the SMBs to be able to access a good, easy to use, simple experience, right? Also, and as I said, like manual methods definitely don't want to do. And now we are talking about the business is fast paced. We want to grow our business and increase our sales, but then also
cannot do if everyone is doing their own thing.
Yes.
And working in different directions. So you get to move faster.
Yes. And so, so while you want to grow sales, and I think that's also a bigger focus for SMBs, making sure that, while you're doing it, how are you actually profitably scaling, right? Making sure that your profit margins are actually also scaling when you're taking more businesses. You cannot do that if you're not efficient. Let's be clear. Your profit margin is a factor of your sales and costs. So when you look at costs, think about it, and as you're growing and you're stepping that stone in that ladder, make sure that you're taking a look at it, bringing in people, using the right tools, and then making it efficient. So when you grow, you increase your revenue, but you also increase your profits. Right?
And I want to really hone in on that point, because we're talking about the small business space and 20 to 50 employees, even less. And I've talked to owners and I've heard stories of, I'm not really looking to grow and expand because I've tried that before and my profits were the same. Well, that's not a sales problem. Yeah. You have an operational efficiency problem.
Yes.
You didn't execute properly.
You have a productivity problem.
Yes.
Exactly.
You don't have to stray away from growth because the profit margins are the same. You have to what to fix so that your profit margins are better.
Yes.
Grow.
Damon, that's a you problem right there, right?
Yeah, I deal with that a little bit.
Keep it going, man. This is my God, so good. Keep it rolling, right? All right. So it's not a sales problem; it's an operation problem. Where do we go from there?
And so, though now that you have realized it, right, there's a lack of interoperability, right? Making sure that you understand those metrics that if you're a lot of times, like, both DC and I have been working with different companies and different, industries. We've realized that a lot of times you'll see that we don't even have a full grasp of what our finances look like. Like, what's my total landed costs? Like, what's my cost of running and operating this business? Yep. So once you really get that reality check, you will realize how important this is. And once you do that, and I think a lot of us also haven't taken the effort to go to these SMBs, be talking to them, be actually catering to them, right? There's a lot of marketing happening for the bigger, folks out there. And we somehow and everyone is following whatever, following the herd. And then going after the technologies that exist out there. So
what is targeted and marketed to the small and medium businesses is very much sales.
Yes.
How do you improve sales? How do you
Mm-hmm.
improve sales? How do you improve sales? How do you increase sales?
Yes. And so, I'll just throw some keywords out there. Like you definitely have a productivity problem. If you're listening to this, at least go take a look at it and see what
ask yourself these questions.
Ask yourself these questions, like, can I be more interoperable? Can I have more visibility? Can I do a lot more while actually going out there, being in the field, talking to my sales customers, like doing sales and talking to my customers? Can I still get a hang of, you know what, I want to take this deal. Like when can I actually, what's my lead time looking like? What's my delivery date looking like? Can I just do it in minutes versus actually calling someone up, making a 2-day commitment to understand, okay, where everything is, how can I move things around, and then schedule this project? You can't do that. Trust me, there are tools out there that can help you do that in matter of minutes. Again, we want to be digitally smart. We want to be modernizing the way we do operations. Dyci, I'm taking that from you. Modernization.
Yeah, digital modernization versus
transformation.
Yeah. What little piece can you, or what little piece or pieces can you start to modernize in bite-sized pieces versus trying to boil the ocean? And again, going back to what Sneha mentioned, like we hear a lot in the headlines of, legacy brands and enterprise companies. And it's like, great. I remember talking to a small frozen pastry manufacturer a couple of years ago, right when I was starting the company. And she said, I really appreciate how you have been approaching this, because if I talk to one more consultant that says, this is what I did with Nestle, I'm going to lose my mind, because I don't have the money that Nestle has. I don't have the resources that Nestle has. I don't care what you did with Nestle.
It's not the solution.
I think it's just very important to focus on that, and just in the journey of figuring out what is NGA going to do and what is NGA's contribution to the industry to bring value. I mean, working with Sneha and coming up with our software, we've figured out, like, very, very easily, you don't have to have an ERP. You don't have to have all these other fancy systems, but let's take the scheduling piece out of it. Let's make that intelligent, because it's very easy to overcome that resistance. It's also very easy. Like, do I need this? I don't know. Is your plant manager walking in every day and, like, in his head looking and seeing, or her head, who came to work today? What projects do we have? Is this machine down for maintenance? Should it be coming up for me? Like, are you doing all of that in your head? Well, like, don't. Are you doing all that on notepads and sticky notes and, like, walking around the plant floor to see what's actually, being developed or getting produced and where you are in changeovers? Like, don't do that. You don't need to have to pay $200,000 in order to do it. There's, like, it's intelligent scheduling, so it does it for you. You know what I mean? So it's not this big platform of, like, we're going to revolutionize manufacturing, but we are going to relieve exactly what Damon mentioned earlier. There is a labor shortage right now. You know what I mean? So what can you automate that you can't throw bodies at, even if you wanted to? Yep. So now that and every customer that we've talked to, every person that we've talked to that has seen the demo, that has been interested in what it is, has said, and I always ask this, how are you handling, procurement relationships right now? Or how are you handling, the scheduling of different vendors on site, off site, your different partners, so that you have visibility into that? Well, we just call them all. And I say, okay, well, what would people do if they weren't calling people? Oh, well, they would be doing this other thing, and they would be working on this other stuff. Okay, well, tell them to stop calling people and just put the data into the system. And what you now have to do, instead of sitting down and figuring out, like, oh, how do I make this work in my head or on my spreadsheet? I have to now say, is the system telling me to do something that makes sense? Then I accept it. If not, I do a quick override, but now I'm going to go do those other strategic things. And our jobs are enabled by technology on the shop floor, on the construction site. So it's taking those bite-sized pieces and improving things that way with quick wins, low hanging fruit. And then you can say, oh, imagine how much more efficient and how much more agile we could be if we had an ERP system or a new TMS or a new WMS. Or what if we integrate it directly through API? So you get people on board, and then that's when you can start getting creative with other ways to be able to improve operations so that you can support growth in a profitable way.
Yeah.
I don't even know how much time we have here. Like, when is this over?
Can we keep going?
We only have 3 hours, so
okay.
Yeah, only 3 hours. But
that's fine. I can keep going. I'm sure we can go for 3 hours.
What you're saying is really relevant, though, for a lot of these smaller manufacturers. They've been beaten to death by salespeople. They're selling ERP systems that they just look at and go, I don't have the people to implement this. It's a lot of money. I don't really know what I'm going to get from it. They've got something that's taking care of their finances already, right? That's because if they're in business, they've figured that piece out. But
they can pay people, they can get paid.
Yeah, they can pay people and get paid. That's it. But what you're talking about when you talk about scheduling, inventory, and supply chain management, that piece is kind of the black hole in a lot of businesses, and ERP systems don't address it well anyway. They say they do, but they really don't. And then if they do, it's like this monster system that you've got to do all this, just incredible amount of work to get it to start putting out mediocre information.
Or you even have to buy a Ferrari when like you really need a Toyota. I need this one feature. I don't need the whole thing. But this doesn't have that one feature. So now I'm like, it's like, I'm either going to pay $5 or I have to pay $5 trillion bajillion.
Yeah.
Where's like the $50 option?
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
Like my budget is $50. I don't want to pay zero, but I also don't want to pay too much. Where that get me? And I think that in the manufacturing space, a lot of it is when companies think about digital, it's very much the ERP. And that goes back, like you only know what you know. And if I'm trying to make stuff, I'm not like spending time figuring out what the supply chain and manufacturing tech options look like. Like that's a day. Like, I mean, that I've made my career off of that. Like that's literally a job. Knowing who the players are, knowing who is actually doing something, knowing who has longevity, knowing and understanding which industries work best, which team, financial constraints, what to turn on, what to turn off. Like that's a job. So unless you have a CTO or a chief digital officer and that's all they're doing, which for a lot of these small companies, it just doesn't make sense because you don't need all of these systems. You need to improve one or two processes. You need to automate one or two processes, not the entire business in order to actually see some ROI. And a lot of companies know project management and ERP. Like those are the two things. So anything outside of that, there's just not visibility to it. And there's, so that's what we're, really trying to encourage people to at least reach out and have the conversation. I mean, I probably should, but I never charge people to say, oh, based off of what you've told me, look at these 3 tools. I'm never gonna make someone pay to do that, Now I will say, like, hey, if you want me to call people, like, really go through your processes and like really truly see if that makes sense, then sure, like, let's sit down, let's define processes. I can have the hard conversations with the salespeople who are gonna say, yes, this works, and I'm gonna say, but does it? But does it really though? So it's just one of those things to where it's like, the ERP isn't the only option. The project management tool isn't the only option. There are different software out there. There's different software out there. And especially now that we're in this, like, we've always been global, but I feel like software now is even more global. I mean, some of the tools that I recommend to customers are out of India or Singapore, or, like we're not looking at companies that are just stateside anymore from a technology perspective. The Ukraine, we have a preferred like warehousing technology vendor out of the Czech Republic. You know what I mean? And the manufacturers don't have that knowledge, those relationships. Because I mentioned, they're not going to the conferences that we're going to. They're not scheduling demos every single week and vetting people every single week. So they just don't know that there's more out there than the ERP, which, like, let's just face it, no one's figured out how to do ERP. Right, ERP sucks. Like who wants to do? Like, everyone is avoiding ERP as much as possible.
One question: everyone who's watching, who's gonna watch on the recorded line, like, go back, just retrospect, whatever. Tell me, like, tell yourself the truth. How you're using every single module that you have purchased in your ERP? I bet you're.
Or that's available. Yeah, that's available.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes. It's available. You're paying for it, but you're not using it. So I bet you're not. Yep.
All right, let's do this, man. I've completely lost track of time, DC, like you just mentioned. And so, like, this is like the fastest 50 minutes of my life, and I'm just so captivated. I
only know about the time because I'm thinking about my massage.
That's right.
There you go.
We got to get DC on her way, Damon.
Got to get her down the road.
She's not on West Coast time, so
that means it's time for me to go.
Hey, we did have a question here. Do you think aligning supply chain participants with real-time two-way information flow is the biggest supply chain team? If no, what do you think the biggest is? Anybody want to take a stab at that question there?
Aligning supply chain with real-time two-way information flow. I don't think real-time is the biggest pain point. I think that real-time is a nice thing to say, but most businesses don't move that fast. So you don't need real-time. You do need updated, accurate information. And I don't even know that two-way is what's needed, because it's like 15-way, isn't it?
Good point.
But let me, I don't know, Sneha, if you have something off the top of your head, what's the biggest supply chain pain point?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the question. But yes, I mean, real time is a great visibility to have today, specifically when you're on the road, right? Doing stuff, interacting with people like outside your company all the time. Great visibility to have. Is that the biggest pain point? I don't think so. I think the biggest pain point today is actually challenging the status quo, knowing that you have a pain point. A lot of times we are especially supply chain, we are so truly engrossed in the depth and firefighting every day. We stop thinking that there are better ways to do this. I think that's where DC and I have been really amused, I would say, and amazed in when we talk to people and industries like, you could do this better. You could be thinking more strategic. You could be thinking about a lot of great stuff versus actually coming to the job and firefighting. And that doesn't even excite you. You hate your job for doing that. I think that's the biggest pain point, I would say, in supply chain operations today, that knowing that you have a pain, realizing that and doing something about it. Okay.
Sunday dinner right there, Damon.
Yes, it
Sunday
is.
dinner at Grandma's.
The dessert just rolled in the room.
That's just coming out of the oven, man. So, hey, Nicole's here today, guys. Thank you for dropping the comments here. And DC, Sneha, there are folks that are asking to connect. And so, guys, absolutely, please do yourself a favor. You will thank Damon and I afterwards. Connect with these two. As you can tell, they are absolute powerhouses. We are running out of time. So if we guys can do this quickly, we could go easily another hour. Yeah. Damon, we did a fun, exciting jam session back around Labor Day. It was back in September. DC, Sneha, if you guys recall, at IMEC, the Illinois MEP. And it was about diversity. Man, did we have a good time or what? Was that fun?
Yes.
So just if you keep it, relatively reasonably within time, we want to be mindful of everybody's time here. Sneha, I'll start with you. Why should, if you're speaking to young folks in particular, folks, women, and we had Nancy on here last week, and I asked her this question, like, why should young girls, I have a teenage daughter, why should young women go into manufacturing? She's like, everybody should be going into manufacturing. I don't care who it is, but we're talking about diversity and women in manufacturing. Sneha, why should all the cool kids be thinking about a career in manufacturing?
Because it's cool. Like, it's not it's as simple as that. Because I am a minority women of color, right? An immigrant here, and I am in manufacturing. And trust me, I still face those. Do you work in IT because you're from India? Sorry, but that's the truth. But no, I don't. I've worked in manufacturing. I'm working for construction.
You built a software.
Oh, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I have a team that does it.
We have a CTO.
Hey,
to be fair, we have a CTO.
We have a CTO. Okay, Hazard, I didn't do that, but I'm into manufacturing. Trust me, the feeling of what DC was pointing out of actually building something, seeing something happen, right? That feeling is phenomenal, right? Adding that value to your customers is phenomenal, and you touch every single phase of a product life cycle. It is cool, no matter what everyone tries to tell you. Come in, try it, and it's growing. It's growing, and the recognition is there. Women are actually seeing more opportunities, and there is more appetite to allow women to grow. Still biases, I'm not saying it's, but biases are everywhere. Manufacturing is not the only industry that has biases. I've worked in very different industries. Trust me, there could be bigger biases in others. So come in, we are valued, we are getting valued, we need to rock this space. And just allow space for other young women coming, make space for them, and let them be leaders.
I'm gonna say that I think that it all just comes down to marketing. I feel like so much comes down to marketing, and other industries have done a really good job of like making it sexy to go work for the industry.
Yes.
And then also, I mean, let's just call it what it is. Manufacturing, construction, skilled trades for a long time. I grew up in the world of go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. And you can make more money if you go to college. You're going to have a better earning potential across your entire life if you go to college, go to college, go to college. The bottom line is that you can still have a very fruitful, from an economic perspective, career in manufacturing. And you can, if you want to go to college, then great. There's plenty of finance, accounting, those types of jobs in manufacturing that require a 4-year degree. But there are also other jobs that don't. And a lot of manufacturers are doing apprenticeships, and a lot of manufacturers have a lot of opportunities for training and for upskilling and reskilling. And at the end of the day, like realistically, especially as a mom, especially as a mother, you're thinking, how do I make money for the family? How, like, even just from an economic and like international development perspective, research has shown if you give a microloan to a woman, you improve the entire community. So, that economic development factor, the prosperity for your family, you can find that in manufacturing. And to Sneha's point, I don't walk into customers ever and feel like, oh my goodness, this is just like blatant sexism, blatant racism, So are there strides that we can continue to make? Of course. I mean, we had a customer that specifically said, we think you guys are great, but a guy come, and they didn't say it that way.
Like on our face.
Realistically, they said, we need this to work, and we need the team to answer your questions honestly, and they're going to feel more comfortable having that conversation with a guy. So, but they weren't like, hey, can you guys not come? Like, we don't have girls here, So I haven't had any experiences where I've thought, oh my goodness, I'm not going to make it in this industry because I'm a woman. So I think it's a great industry. I think it's really fun. I think there's a lot of like innovation happening with 3D printing and advanced manufacturing. Like there's a
VR,
lot of
AR, everything.
Yeah, so much.
Yes. It's super cool and it's really fun. And like, no one's great at marketing that.
But one thing, so sorry, I know we are taking more time, but wearing that hard hat and that vest and walking the shop floor is amazing. I love it.
And throw on some high heels. We have a client. She wears her pink hard hat with her high heels, and she absolutely loves it. So, hey, how about this for you guys right there? Dropping some love.
Thank you.
All right, Sneha, where can folks find you? Where would you love to connect?
LinkedIn, definitely, absolutely. Find me here. The most where I'm active. I'm building my Insta presence more, and so we'll be linking that here. So would love to connect there too. Yep.
Okay,
awesome.
So DC, where can people find you? What's that?
LinkedIn.
Just LinkedIn. Just LinkedIn.
Yeah,
just
find DC. There are other places, but like just LinkedIn. Message.
Yeah, and it's one word, right? Like Beyonce.
Slide into my DMs.
It's just DC, right? DYCI, right? Just that's
Yeah.
it. So, all right, guys, if you've been hanging out, you've been sitting down, for the past 59 and 18 seconds, it is a perfect time and opportunity to stand up, maybe give a little stretch and give a huge, huge standing ovation for our two powerhouses today. Man, you guys certainly don't disappoint, man. This was like, man, you guys are good. And Damon, I survived. My heart held up for the whole hour.
Yes.
How's that? I was a little worried about myself. I didn't know if I was going to make it, but I did make it. So, DC, Sneha, thank you. God bless you. We appreciate you more than you know. We value your friendship. When you get this, you have some exciting things going on. Connect with these guys and take this offline. And when you guys are ready, Damon and I would be honored to have you back. And we're gonna geek out some more in supply chain. Guys, have a great, amazing, incredible weekend. We appreciate everybody out there. Damon, take us away, brother.
Well, thanks so much to DC and Sneha for being here today. It was awesome. Like I said, the hour flew by without even knowing it. And just thanks for being here. Thanks everyone for putting the comments out there, and listeners, go back and listen to the replay. There's a lot of good value. There's a lot of valuable nuggets in here. You will not regret your time spent on that. Everyone, we will be back again next week. See you then.